Right. First thing, let's hope the clicker works. So today we're going to talk about the journey to conversion. Now, that forms many different component parts. It's Raft and Warren has gone over a lot of all those in terms of a general. We're just going to try and drill down on just a couple component parts and go into a little bit of detail, hopefully not too much. I'll be coming at it from a sort of a paid angle and from a search angle, and then Paul will be looking at it from a sort of on-site element.
Thanks, Tom. So in previous agencies, paid search and user experience were seen as sort of separate entities. And to be honest, before Tom came to Evosite, I saw paid search as a bit of a chuck it over the fence technique where people would be bidding on any term just to get traffic to the site, and then they'd talk to us as user experience people to say, well, it's your job now to convert them. But actually, what I really found is we did share the same goals. We shared the same values, that it isn't really about the visitors. It's not about just these vanity metrics of how many people you can get to your site. It's really about what makes that visitor turn into a customer. And so it's about trying to find out what they're really looking for, directing them to the right place, and making it as swift as you possibly can. So that's what we're going to talk to today. But of course, you can't make any conversions without actually driving the traffic first. So I'll let Tom do his first bit on how you can drive that traffic.
Cool. Thank you, Paul. So as marketers, we love metrics. I'm a marketer, I love my metrics. And lots of acronyms. And we're all guilty, particularly I am, so I will try not to speak in acronyms, but I do have a few up here to start off with. So what I always say is, as businesses, know your metrics, know what you're measuring. It's a really important element to drive change and drive fundamental value. So these are a couple fundamentally from AdWords, CPA, cost per acquisition, ROAS, return on ad spend, and probably the most fundamental one for e-commerce businesses, return on investment. So what I'm trying is know what you're talking about and know how to measure it and gauge that constantly, week on week, month on month, year on year. Now, one thing that drives everything, and is, to me, it's very, very important, is the importance of brand. So you are a brand, your companies are brands, and what I'm trying to do first is I'm going to do a little exercise. Now, most speakers actually ask you to put your phones away. I'm actually going to ask you to get them out and Google yourself and see what comes up. And I will be asking if there's any funny ones that comes through or any interesting ones that you might have. So for a moment, get out your phones and Google yourselves and see what comes up. Give me 5 minutes. While you're doing that, my name's Tom Stengers. Unfortunately, I get him. I don't know if anybody knows who he is. I thought my name was pretty unique. There's not many Tom Stengers in the world, but unfortunately, I'm very much linked to Thomas Brody Stengers, who's very much got a Game of Thrones element to him, and he's also been in other numerous movies. So even my surname is not unique. So has everyone had a chance to do that a moment? Right. Peace. Is there any interesting ones in the audience? Anyone think like to share with what their name comes back as, or any famous interesting ones?
There's some giggling
yes,
going on.
Well, thankfully your picture just doesn't come up with that one. Yes. Sorry. Yes. Well, I hope you're I hope you get the salary that he's on at the end of it. Yes.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, anybody else in the audience? Anyone like to share over this side?
I've got my old name, so I'm dead.
Yeah. You're sitting there, you're fine for the moment, so that's good. So the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is Google your brand name, your company name. And from a mobile perspective, this will always have additional interest, because what I'm trying to say is your customers have touch points. The biggest touch point that your customers will have is your brand. How does that look online? How does that feel? How does that touch and that sentiment, that story? Does it come across? Now, hopefully, you get something like that. Now, obviously, that is a desktop screenshot. This is a screenshot from Emirates, and very much controlling their brand in terms of the top ad is a paid ad, the second is their organic ad. They've got site links going in to tell them, allowing people to go in and out of their site at different points from their journey from what they want to do. Now, from a mobile perspective, you should be being allowed to do that. Now, also with mobile, images of your brand and your company are very, very true. I've had one example where I work for an agency, and the image that they've got is the bush around the corner that appears on their from Google, that the Google drops, not an actual image of their brand, their company, their logo, just a bush around the corner. Is that really reflective of what you're trying to get across, the professionalism that everybody has within this room of making sure that people understand customers and convert? And also reviews will start appearing here as well. So if you Google me, hopefully I've covered that off, and elements, and that you don't get him for today, you will get me, but who knows, he's quite a powerful character. So just going back a little bit into the deck now, in terms of why that is important and the importance of brand. Now, as a paid marketer, most people go, the question I often get is, oh, why do you paid on your brand when my organic listings are there as well? What's the point? I'm paying for traffic I don't need. Okay, well, a study by, I forget the clicker going right, study by Bing, and yes, it is Bing. Actually, a general question, who used Bing in the audience to search for themselves? I know I said Google, but that's a general of search for them. Does anyone use Bing to search for themselves? There should be at least one hand in the audience according to the statistics. No? No? Okay. So, combining both paid and organic together to control your brand elements increases your overall brand traffic by 31%. Well, how does that happen? Well, it's controlling what's known as sort of the brand plus keywords. So this is brand plus reviews, brand plus product name, brand plus website. So you .co.uk domain after it. All these different elements, and there's hundreds of examples I can go. I've only picked out 3 that I thought was really, really relevant to. So make sure both from a paid angle and from an organic angle, you are covering these elements and making sure that you're engaging, and what the user sees is how you want to reflect your business. Because I think, personally, from looking at most accounts, it's an underestimated part. And when we talk about flow in and out of your website, it's a touch point that is underutilized in terms of what's coming across. Now, to me, as when I'm putting paid and doing search reviews together, this statistic in terms of driving those metrics that I mentioned previously it's sort of the 80-20 rule, as previously mentioned, but it's be 100% to your audience, be 20% to everyone. So I don't want to reach everyone in this room if I only speak to 20 people. So how can I do that? Particularly from a search element. Well, if someone types in my keyword, regardless of who they are, surely I want to show to that person. Well, in terms of driving conversions on limited budgets, one thing we have to try and do is drive the right person through to making sure that that person has a higher potential to convert. And that's based on knowing your audience as a business. So build out profiles of who your customers are and go example customers. Now, to be fair, there is no one different example of who your customer is, but who you think you are, and actually try and match that up. Because if we know that, particularly within Facebook, you can actually start really driving who your customer is. So I want to personalize my search results based on who I'm targeting. And with that, there's a lot of location-based. So I want to target everybody within Bristol. Demographics. Within paid accounts, I can target down to age-specific and gender incomes, and I combine those in a custom combination audience. Sorry, technical term. But also coming within the States, and it's currently available in the States, but not in the UK at the moment, is I can also target based on income. So I know when someone's doing a search result, I know that that person I'm driving through from a paid result, because I am paying for that traffic, is making sure that they're the right age and the right location, and actually they're not just information shopping. They've got in the budget, they're a good income, particularly relevant for high-value income items. And also probably coming there is interest, combining interest into search results as well. So I'm taking through the right person through to the website, not just on the keyword. Personalization is becoming very, very critical to deliver great return. Now, I am going to flip through my slides, and I do apologize. So this is a traditional channel metric that we've talked about, that everybody is, isolated. They're all in their own funnels. So a person coming through paid will only come through paid. A person who works organically, I never click on a paid ad. I don't believe that to be ever true. If someone actually says that to me, I believe it's based on relevance. Content, great content, engaging through content and social. Now, the truth is, and like I say, is everybody at a certain point will go in and touch point all through these different elements through the journey. And they'll all come in at some point through your brand. And I'll touch on attribution at the end and how all that is calculated. But making sure that each one of these elements is controlled and the same messaging is coming through and you're reaching the right person. But making sure, in terms of control, I don't want to be 100%, I just want to be 20%. I want to control the elements for 20%, not 100%, making sure that there's all the right elements there. So I love paid search. I'm not going to deny that, we're talking over a few channel marketing. So just to summarize and round up, just a few component parts that I really, in terms of talk about day in, day out, when actually looking and revolving around paid search elements. So that's understanding your customers. That personalization part is very, very important. Create relevant campaigns. Now, to me, one of the biggest drivers within AdWords accounts is relevancy. That's matching the keyword to the person, to the ad, to the website. Now, if you could draw that through, one thing you should hopefully be able to do is quality score. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on those elements, but if you do want to talk anything about any particular paid accounts or quality scores, if you've got any questions, come grab me on the Evosite stand, and I'll talk about them afterwards. Now, one thing, if we can do all of those elements, so we're delivering through the right person, in the right audience, in the right demographic through, now hopefully we can influence return. But when they go from Google, actually, it's the site. So it's that combination now that I'm going to let Paul go through in terms of once we've got that right element of the right person going through, how can we bring them back in and make the site work harder?
So as Tom literally and metaphorically sort of hands over the baton, it's now my job to get them from that first click, because they've not really invested much, they've just clicked on a link, to now get them to the end point of their goal. So like Tom mentioned with his personas, you want to know who that type of person is, what they're looking for their key journey. So the way that I would buy something or what I look for is different to how Tom would look for and his decision-making process. So this example on the Nike site, there's nice product images, it's got some good imagery, but it's also got a lot of technical information because I'm really geeky about stuff like that. And I'm looking for things like seamless and flat seams, which Tom doesn't care about because he's just looking for the color. But of course, it's about knowing the different types of things people are looking for to make sure that you've got that on your site. Because if you don't have all the technical information and somebody's looking for a technical top, they're then going to leave, the ad click has been wasted, and they're going to go to the next site. And then, of course, like Warren mentioned, you're likely to have come on maybe once or twice before. It's not going to be the first time. But you want to identify how far along in their journey they are today. So again, this is a first purchase example. Somebody who's never bought from them before. They're looking for size. They're not quite sure what the size is. So there's a size guide. But then there's also a live chat. So if people want to ask a few more technical questions or just ask about returns or something, and they've never used the site before, they have the opportunity to do it there and then without hunting for it. So it's about being at the right place for somebody so they don't have to spend too much time and effort looking for what they're trying to find. And then it's trying to validate why they're on the page. Everyone's coming to the site for a different reason. For whatever company or website you have, ultimately there's a goal that somebody wants to have. Now, for the running stuff, they want to get fitter. So they don't necessarily want a t-shirt, they probably just would like one. But really they want to be fitter and stronger and healthier and happier. So It's about trying to say, this is what you're going to have in a very nice way. There's this confirmation bias. This is an example from My Protein, and it's great. All they've done is they've said, is this product for me? And they've said yes. Of course they're going to say that, but it's the kind of question that somebody's going to have in their mind. When they're looking at a product like whey protein, they all seem very similar. Somebody's really just saying, well, is this right for me? What's the difference? So they're just being very honest about it, saying, yep, this is exactly what you want. It does this, this, and this. That's why you should have it. Don't bother looking anywhere else. So it's about understanding what kind of questions somebody's going to have on that site and making sure that you can find it for them. And then it's about the persuasion side. And I'm all about the ethical side of persuasion. I'm not talking about tricking them or conning them into do it. It's just about being very genuine and honest and being persuasive in a nice way. You could argue maybe framing, which is what John Lewis are doing, is maybe tipped towards their side a little bit more. I just did a search for toaster, and the top results, one came back and it was £30. The middle range one was between 70 and 100, and then somebody's buying a £200 toaster somewhere, I don't know where. But there was a study where there was a company, and they only had 2 key products on their range. And the problem was nobody was buying either because you didn't have a framing concept to be able to say, well, what you should do is try and go for the toaster in the middle. But to be honest, I'm still not sure who's spending £70 on a toaster, so maybe that's not quite fair. But framing works in menus and restaurants as well. What they do is they have the products which are cheap to make and expensive to sell. They have them in the middle. And they have the products they don't really want you to choose, top and bottom. So you're instantly looking, it's the same for wine lists and things like that. The products they really want you to choose are in the middle. So next time if you're having a look at a menu, try and choose either the top or the bottom, and it's probably the right one. And then it's USPs, and everyone says they have a USP, but sometimes things like free delivery and free returns aren't really USPs anymore. So what makes you unique to others? Now, this is a kids site called Kidly, and what I thought was really nice is they've got free returns. They've also got help. They're calling it best help ever. And obviously, because this is young families, they've got help up until 10 o'clock at night. So if somebody's looking around and they're not sure, they know that office hours aren't going to work for them. 10 o'clock at night, they can still ask a question, and somebody's going to be there to help them out. Again, keeping them on the site rather than going off and trying to find somewhere else where their answer can be had. This is an example on their product page, so they're not even trying to make people find this information. It's just on their product page about 365-day returns. So if anyone's questioning at that time, or I'm not sure about this product, can I return it? They're saying you can return it within a year, which is a real key selling point. And rather than putting it on a deliveries or returns page, they put it on the product page, keep them on the journey, so that they're not hunting for the information that they're looking for. And then you've got that call to action. Now, on a product page, that's really easy. What you want to do is you want them to click on Add to Basket as much as you possibly can. But the higher up you get in that journey, it becomes harder to know really where to take them next. Now, Wicked Uncle do a great thing on their homepage. They sell children's products and toys and games and things like that to all sorts of ages. And instead of just chucking products up there and saying one of these might be suitable, they've gone, let's hold back a little bit. Let's try and find out who's on our site at the moment. What sort of categories would they be interested in? Is it a boy or a girl? What sort of age range are they? Before I show you any products or before I talk to you, I'd like to find out who you are, just like you would in a shop, and then show you relevant content. So again, it's very easy to make a decision. So you're clicking, you're interacting with that page, and then you're going further down into that site, and all you're seeing are relevant products. And then you've got the questions, like I mentioned in the previous slide. People have in their mind, it might be subconscious, it might be one they're actively looking for as it's later on in the journey. What kind of common questions get asked? And this is an example of the Screwfix site. This is somebody asking, does it work with a particular battery? Now, if you can't find that information on this site, chances are you might go somewhere else. And it's not the kind of thing you would have in a product description. So what they've done, and a lot of other companies, they put Q&As on the site where people can ask questions, get answers straight back from the manufacturer, so that, again, they keep them on the right journey, so they're not hunting around for this information. People really don't have a lot of time and attention, so you've got to put it right in front of them if you possibly can. And then you've got the proof. So we all know that things like reviews, 5-star ratings work brilliantly. Case studies if you're not doing e-commerce sales. But then there's other tricks that you can have as well. It's the kind of bandwagon effect. Oh, well, they've bought it. I saw somebody buy this the other day. And you can do that online as well. And Argos have done this where, and you've seen this with maybe holiday sites, where people go, oh, 2 people, or somebody's just bought this in the last 10 minutes. Now, you could argue whether that's erring on the side of kind of being a bit, I don't know, annoying. You're thinking, well, you're just trying to sell to me. But the point is, if you're looking at that product and you say, well, it's quite popular, people probably like it, it's also got 5 stars, maybe that is the product for me. So it's showing that it's popular, you're not the only person looking at it. And again, maybe you don't have to look. Maybe that's the Christmas present. You can get it now. It's out the way. You can move on to doing what you really want to do. So a couple of tips that you can take away and question on your own sites. Like Warren with his moonwalking and breakdancing, what are they going to remember you by? So have a look. What makes you unique? And if they go away from your site and they're trying to think about that company which they saw the other day, why would they come back to you? Was it that live chat that was really helpful? Was it the videos that were really informative, high-quality pictures or technical information? What is it that's going to make them really remember you for? And then make it ethical. I'm really about this. When I did a piece for e-consultancy on dark patterns and ethical CRO, I found, this is a blurred screenshot from London Zoo. And believe it or not, the green arrow on the right-hand side is exactly the same as the blue outlined arrow on the left. The only difference is the green arrow actually adds on a donation. Now, I blurred it out because most of the time we're not really paying attention. Half of the content on the site isn't even read. So people this is on the checkout phase, they've chosen their tickets, they just want to get on and pay. And then this screen comes up, and a lot of people are just going to go, oh, green button, right arrow, I'm going to press that. Now, they're trying to get donations for the zoo, which is a good cause, but the problem is they're doing it in the wrong way. And like I did to them, you can call them out and say it's not really how you want to be treating your customers. So try wherever you can to make it ethical and don't trick them into doing this sort of stuff. And then make it quick. I think everyone's said or has been told that a fast site is really the key to conversion, but it still is. And we still find, Tom and I, when we're looking at sites, they can still be very slow. And when people don't have time and attention, they'll just switch off, or they'll choose the other site that's quicker, or they'll choose Amazon, which is even faster. But have a look at your site, try and speed it up, because there's always ways to improve it, and it's the single easiest way to increase your conversions on any site, is just make it quicker, because you cause less delay when people are going from page to page, and it feels faster and slicker, and they're making decisions faster. And then there's fixing broken pages. So there's nothing worse than coming to a dead end. And there's really no excuse, especially if you're, like Tom, paying for those clicks and paying for those visits. If ultimately they end up on a dead end page in a 404, there's nowhere else to go. So do a sweep of your site, check for any 404s and dead ends, and just get rid of them. Because really it's a bad experience. You've lost them. They're likely to then find somewhere else. You're maybe not going to come back to them ever again. And then do your research, do your homework, and look at your competitors. Really find out what makes their sites good, what makes their sites not so good, and use those to your advantage. So if they don't have very good images, make your images twice as good. Add video, add more images, add images of people taking pictures of their own on your website, and really make that a selling point. And then make it approachable. So rather than just saying, this is our product, this is great, this is what you want, it has this, this, and that, like MyProtein did. Say, this is the product for you. If you want to do this and you want to get stronger, this is why it helps. This is why it's better. So again, if only half the content's going to get read, make it very skimmable, very easy to read, and just talk to them in a very conversational way, so that when they ask questions to the site subconsciously, it answers back to them. And then keep asking why. You might have heard of the 5 whys, but I do this to all my clients and they hate me for it. They'll say, I've got this product, it's great, it does this and that, and I'll go, why would someone buy it? And they go, oh, but we've got a great thing on social media, and I'll go, yeah, that's social media. Why is the product great? And they go, oh, but it's had loads of engagement, we've been featured in this magazine, and you keep on asking why, and they go, well, it's really good because of this. It keeps people fit, keeps people active, or whatever. And you've got to keep asking why, so you get to the real crux of what makes your site, your product, your service unique. Until you do that, you're just adding a layer on top, where maybe people aren't being convinced. So find that why and really make it sing on your website. But of course, if it doesn't convert on the first attempt, then I've got to pass the baton back over to Tom. He's got to drag him back to the site, kicking and screaming, and then I can do my job all over again.
Thank you, Paul. So I'm going to talk about remarketing. So remarketing is, as I call it, online stalking. Effectively, that's what it is. As marketers, and as we love it. And there's some great activities you could do in Google and in Facebook. So really, it's what people looked at on my site, what are they interested in, and then can I take them back? But the things with remarketing, you can be a little bit smart with it as well. You can be very time sensitive. You can throw, for example, very time sensitive products. You can be more aggressive within a certain day period as well. So you can set your remarketing strategies also based on time. You needn't necessarily just throw them out to the audience and give them a 10% offer straight away. You can create custom lists that allow you to segment your audience base based on time and page, that allows you to be a little bit more aggressive at certain times and deliver certain messages. So to set it up, all you need to do is drop a tag and a Facebook tag on your site. Actually, you don't even need to do that anymore. You could just do it through analytics and create custom audience lists based within analytics, and then you can start stalking. So that sounds quite bad, but it's what it is. But it's stalking dressed up as an engagement. So it's taking people back to what they've looked at. Now, very, very strong. If you're familiar with remarketing, is dynamic remarketing. So that's delivering the products and services that people have actually looked at, rather than just a generic brand as well. So I love remarketing. It also allows marketers to be very, very creative as well. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is, and one of the final things you'd be pleased to know, is sort of channel grouping. Does anybody know what that is?
A couple.
Lots of images. So that's an example from people's Google Analytics, from a random client, of someone interacting with one of our client sites. So I have put that there, and I did choose it deliberately, that person has interacted with paid search 3 times before that person come back in and bought. And this is where it's very important to come in and brand, because what most people will do is search for a sort of a generic term and then come back in on your brand. Or they might search for that term again and then come back in on your brand. That's very elements of why I try to look out those brand elements first. Direct, paid direct. So this is someone coming back in over a time length period of engaging with your site. Now this, I think, was over a week period. That number of different people engage with the sites in different ways. And then when you've got their details, you can start emailing people as well and bringing people back in. Email also acts to remind people to then do a search. And again, they normally don't do a brand search because that's the impediment of engaging with your brand. So very, very quickly, I'm going to talk about attribution. Now, attribution is a wide subject in itself. Effectively, it means, how do I measure? How do I measure my objectives? Analytics is last click. So everything that goes through and you measure within analytics is last click wins. So the last click to that sale takes all the cash. Great. Okay. From a PPC perspective, it's first click. AdWords is first click wins. So if AdWords delivers that user to the site, no matter how many times they come back within a 30, 60, or 90-day period, AdWords will take the cash. I like that. That's personally my favorite. But what we're trying to move to is more of a linear model. Now, there's a number of different ways you can measure this, but what it's effectively saying is each part of the channel is valuable. That different message that people are trying to get out, interact and have different touch points along that journey. And to be fair, they should have a proportion of the revenue attributed to them. You could be doing great social media, but actually and great engagement, but everybody's coming back in on your brand organically, and that takes all the cash from an organic perspective. So it sort of diminishes what you're trying to do from a social perspective, but it has value, and how you measure it. If you look at it from that perspective, each portion of the revenue can be attributed equally. There's lots of different ways you can look at it. That's just an equal proportion, but you can do weighted as well. So finally, these are some of the results that we've received for our clients through my time at Evosite. And if you're interested, come speak to us. And thank you very, very much. That's it.
Cheers.